Hi everyone, welcome back to Novel Idea. My name is Dia, and today I have a week in review for you. So this last week I managed to finish 9 books, and I'm just going to go over those with you, and then I'll let you know what I'm in the middle of as well. So let's jump in. So the first book that I finished was Mansfield Park by Jane Austen. And this is the story of 3 sisters who all marry into different financial situations. 2 of them much better off than the third. And when the third begins to have too many children to give them any kind of advantage in the world, the other 2 sisters decide to adopt one of the girls, the oldest girl, and her name is Fanny. So she comes to live at Mansfield Park with her aunt and uncle and her cousins, who look down upon her because she is a poor relation. So she's treated very much like a higher class servant. It's just the story of Fanny and her cousins and the inequalities that happen in her life. There are some things that I really, really love about this book. By the way, I listened to this. This is the BBC dramatization of the book. So I've read it a few times and I wanted to do something a little bit different. So I listened to the dramatization. The things that I like about this story are Fanny's ability to love in spite of how she is treated. But the parts that I don't like are the fact that the inequalities, the people that perpetrate these terrible injustices are not ever really dealt with. It's kind of just brushed to the side and not really done in a way that shows that they are really paying for what they have done. The next book that I finished was The Queen's Resistance, which is the second book in the Queen's Rising duology by Rebecca Ross. It is a YA fantasy. I didn't enjoy this one as much as I enjoyed Queen's Rising. This one has a lot more of the relationship aspect in it than the first one did. Then on top of that, a bit more repetition in this one from the first book that are still happening, and we're like rehashing those things. So I didn't enjoy this one quite as much as the first book, but I still really overall enjoyed the series as a whole. Next book that I completed was Persepolis, and this is by Marjane Satrapi. And it is set in Iran, and it's the story of a young girl whose world is basically turned upside down when the Shah and the Ayatollah Khomeini are taking over. It is a graphic novel, just black and white. There's no colors to it. It was hard to follow sometimes. I did appreciate the look at this period in history in this country from a first-hand perspective. And so I did appreciate that, but there was enough that I didn't quite understand because of the fact that she wasn't telling the full story, because it's a graphic novel. It did feel very much like a story rather than a history. I read next The Dress and the Girl, and this is a picture book. This is by Andrés with illustrations by Morstad. And this was story of a girl who's about to immigrate, and she has a special dress that it has been made for her. And all through getting ready to go on this voyage, and during the voyage, and during the hardships and all of that, she gets to wear this dress. And the dress itself is a character. In fact, the dress is telling us the story. The dress gets separated from the little girl once she arrives, and years later, they are reunited. And it's just this beautiful story of what it means to bond, and the way that things that we have in our lives can help us to remember times that were difficult, or times that were beautiful, or times that were full of trepidation. I contacted my oldest daughter and I'm like, this is totally a Kasha book. You really need this book. Then I read 2 cozy mysteries. These are the Seaside Cafe Mysteries by Bree Baker. I usually read these with Amy, but she's in the middle of a big book right now and she didn't want to set that aside, and I totally get that. And so she was like, just go ahead, read them without me. So I read 2 of them. I read A Call for Kelp and A Closely Harbored Secret. And that's book 4 and book 5 of the Seaside Mysteries. And I'm just really enjoying this cozy mystery series. One of the reasons why I'm really enjoying it is because the events that are talked about that aren't necessarily fulfilled in the first or second or third book, we're coming back around to. And the same thing with some of the characters that we have been introduced to that we know are going to be a part of this little island community. We are seeing them brought back in again and again as well. And one of my main complaints about one of the cozy mystery series that I've kind of decided to be done with is that those things weren't happening. We weren't seeing the characters being brought back in. Some of the situations that we saw in one book were never mentioned again. And so it's just been really good to be in this and have that happening. Another thing that I'm appreciating is just that there's this slow ease into a relationship. It's not an insta-love type thing. It's just been a really lovely, easy relationship. And so I've appreciated that about it as well. I finished The Scapegoat by Daphne DuMaurier. This I was reading with Kellyanne from Kellyanne Mitchell, and the setup for this one was so engrossing. I was intrigued immediately. It's a kind of a doppelganger situation, and I just immediately latched onto that. I love the idea of there being another person out there that is like my evil twin. However, the way that this was executed, it became something that I didn't even want to pick up. I was having such a hard time wanting to finish this book. I think we both felt pretty much the same way. We just came away with this feeling that we couldn't quite suspend our disbelief. And even in the time period that Daphne du Maurier wrote the story in, I would have thought that there would have been some ways around what was happening. I heard from Tiffany and from Penny that something that maybe caused it to be a little more believable, but I still, yeah, it was not my favorite du Maurier. We'll put it that way. Then I read Paul Gallico's The Snow Goose, and this was absolutely wonderful. I love Paul Gallico as an author. It's a novella, and it is the story of a man who has some deformities. He's looked on with suspicion a lot of times, even though he is so kind-hearted and has nothing but compassion. And he begins a sort of bird sanctuary, and he takes care of them during the winter. One day, a very young girl shows up on his doorstep with an injured snow goose. Snow geese are not usually seen in their country. They are Canadian, and this is taking place in like Scotland, Wales kind of area. One day, after healing this goose and getting it to love him and things, and it comes back every year to see him, he has to leave because he is off to help rescue soldiers off this beach before they are bombed by the Germans. And he asks her to take care of the birds in the sanctuary while he's gone. And the snow goose actually goes with him on this journey. I loved it. Absolutely wonderful. Highly recommend. The last one that I finished this week was Ogres, also a novella by AdrianTchaikovsky. This is me giving AdrianTchaikovsky another try to just wow me, because everything I have read by AdrianTchaikovsky I like, but that's it. I like it. It's not love it. It's not amazing. It's not wow. And so I really wanted to try. Everything that he writes is completely different. It's just really different. Everything is different. And so I think this is number 5 or 6 that I have read from him. This one again, though, was just one that I thought was really good, but not one that I'll ever want to revisit. So I don't know what it is that I'm just not getting from him in order to make his books some of my all-time favorites, because I would call him a favorite author because of the fact that I like everything he writes. Ogres is, again, a little bit of a crossover. It's almost like a dystopian society. The human race was overgrowing the planet. The really high-minded, wealthy, and scientific people decided that they would begin to genetically modify humans to be very small so that maybe they wouldn't be the drain on the resources of the planet. So this story picks up kind of after that has happened, and they have the original humans are called the Ogres because they're huge in comparison. And this is the story of one boy and how he kind of fights back. And like I said, good story. I thought it was very clever. I just didn't love it, and I don't know why, you guys. Okay, so that's everything that I finished, and I am still reading the posthumous memoirs of Cubas with Una and Tiffany. Really enjoying it. We'll probably finish this next week. Then I also picked up the Charmed Children of Rookskill Castle, which is by Janet Fox, and it looks kind of like a spooky middle grade. So those are the two that I have on the go right now. And I have a couple of books that I need to go pick up from the library. I can't remember, but I will put pictures up of everything. Flawless and Escape from Camp 14 are for K-Tropathon. Ogres and The Charmed Children of Rookskill Castle was for Summerween. I've already taken care of Jane Austen July because I'm only doing Mansfield Park this year. So all of that, I'm still doing summer book bingo. I blacked out my board in June, and so I started another board for July, and I am working my way through that. I already have a couple of bingos on it. So that is everything from me, you guys. I hope that your July is going great and that you are enjoying the summer, enjoying the sunshine. We've had some very hot weather. We did go on a hike yesterday. That was really fun. Leave me an emoji in the comment, even if you don't have anything to say about any of the books. I would love to know, though, if you have read Tchaikovsky, if you have a favorite by him. Which one is your favorite? I would love to know. Okay, see you guys again very soon. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you want to.